proves we can't ever really know what's going on. What's going on?
Appearances can be deceptive.
Tom, I was just speculating about a hypothesis. I know I don't know nothing.
Uncertainty. That is appropriate for matters in this world.
There, we're in a tight spot.
Welcome to Framework. I am John, one of the hosts of Framework, and with me as always, the other host of Framework, Al. How are you today?
Oh, morose. I'm sad to be saying goodbye to the Coen brothers, the Coen-Oscopy.
Yep.
I think this has been my favorite of the director series that we've done. They're my favorites.
The movies, I think I would have to say. Yeah, this has been a blast to watch all of these. I've had an incredible time with revisiting these 20 films we're going to talk about today. And man, I loved every single one of them except for the Lady Killers, but we'll talk about that.
Yeah, I was going to say they don't have any misses the way all the other directors have big misses, but I'm not sure that's true, actually. I think maybe Tarantino, the first one we did, might be the one that has that doesn't have a complete misfire anywhere. I
would agree.
And
yeah.
And they do have one or two, but the top rung of this, the top five of Tarantino, of Fincher, of Carpenter, and the Coens are all pretty unassailable. I don't know. I guess the Coen brothers goes out a little deeper. It's closer to a top 10 it's amazing that anybody has two masterpieces under their belt.
Right.
They have several more after that. Which we'll get into.
I would say the top 12 or so are kind of some of the best movies ever made. Something like that.
Certainly, would be enough. Their 12th best movie would be enough for other people to hang a career on.
Yeah, yeah. It's been real, man. This has been just a blast. We knew this going in, though, right? That's the thing. My opinion of these guys didn't exactly change much during this. It's just pure fun. Yeah.
But it has been revelatory to me in a way that some of these other ones haven't. That's the thing that I guess when you're being a podcaster and doing a big project like this, what keeps it most interesting for us is I hope that there's something genuinely new that I uncover. Go ahead, starting with Tarantino. It wasn't until I watched all this together I realized, oh yeah, he really does have this through line of people putting on performances for life and death stakes. That's what drives all the conflicts of his movies. And there's so many scenes of characters directing other characters' performances. And with the Coens, I thought I was pretty well versed in this, but I've found some sort of, motifs that I hadn't quite threaded all the way through the thing before. And I do feel like I have a better understanding of the Coens now. Whereas I don't know that I learned a ton new about Christopher Nolan that I didn't bring into that series, for example.
Yeah, maybe so. The through line of uncertainty and how much that undergirds pretty much all the Coens movies and informs them, even when it's not directly about that. That was a bit of a revelation, and that's a called shot, man. Right from Blood Simple on, it's kind of just oh. Maybe this is what these are about. And in every case, it kind of it kind of is what these are about.
Right. But we're not going to start at the beginning here. We're going to start at the bottom.
Yeah.
And so we both had, we are ranking all 20 of the movies directed by the Coen brothers or a Coen brother. So we're going to throw Driveway Dolls and Tragedy Macbeth in here. And that means number 20, both of us put the Lady Killers at the very bottom.
An easy choice, actually.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Turns out.
Mm-hmm. I thought I'd like this more coming back to it. It was the only one I was no, it's actually worse. It's actually a worse movie than I thought.
Same. I think when I saw the first time, it had been so thoroughly trashed to me that I was just kind of well, Tom Hanks is having fun. That's something. And coming back to it this time, I was ready to be people hate on this too much. And not really. It's a shame to see people this talented doing some of their worst work.
Yeah.
Simmons that goes for, not just behind the camera.
J.K. Simmons. It's the rare bad J.K. Simmons performance. Like it's like spotting a unicorn or something, man. This is a sight to see. Him sucking in a movie. It's weird. It just doesn't make sense. I don't know. I think back to like Ian McKellen in The Keep. It's one of those kind of odd moments where you're just like, wait a minute, he's a good actor. What's he doing here?
Yeah.
Hanks kind of acquits himself, but he's still irritating. It's a performance I really wish worked more, and I think he's probably the person giving his best in this film. It is an SNL character in the end, though.
You could put and you have Marlon Wayans doing a living color character that doesn't jibe very well with that, and you could put down the failure of this movie to a lot of things, but one thing you can't put it down to is a lack of effort on Tom Hanks' part. He's certainly given it his all. But this is the one, I would say, this is the one you can skip. Maybe you can skip one or two more, but you can definitely skip this one.
Yeah.
Even if you're a completionist, there's nothing really here for you.
Yeah. Just in the same way, it's interesting to see J.K. Simmons we've had. It's kind of interesting to see the Coens fail at making a movie. They don't usually do that. And there's a confidence and a surety and a craft behind the camera that you can sense and see, and the staging. I believe it's Roger Deakins, right? It's a pretty good looking movie for what is a movie takes place largely in basements, but even still, it's instructive in what it's missing and how it is failing, I suppose. But yeah, it's a bad film, which is maybe the only outright bad film on this list, maybe.
Well, speaking of defining things by what they're missing, our number 19 is going to be my 19. You had it up at 16, but what we're talking about next is The Man Who Wasn't There.
Oh, yeah, you hated that one. Yeah.
Hate's a strong word. I feel like I should have stronger feelings about it, but it lives up to its title and its premise, not eliciting much of a response from me. This one, you cannot skip this as a Coen completionist. Nope. I think it's got, next to A Serious Man, the most direct articulation and engagement with the uncertainty principle stuff that we have identified as the general through line of the entire Coen's oeuvre. And you do have some good performances in there. And if you're, a cinematography pervert, the black and white look at the film is very pretty.
Yeah.
So there are more things here than the Lady Killers have. But what it doesn't have is any energy or pacing or really a compelling story to pull you through.
I don't know that I totally agree with that. I think this movie's okay. I think there's some interesting stuff going in it. Despite being fundamentally opposed to the way this character is presented, I think Billy Bob is pretty great at holding the center of it. I like the supporting cast. I like just a twisty crime thriller. There's much worse twisty crime thrillers that you can watch out there, or and it's a noir. It's if you want to see a proper noir, without any sort of irony or detachment, and it's not maybe the most thrilling one, but it is a solid version of the noir, and
it's twisty on paper. It doesn't feel the way a movie you describe as twisty you would expect it to feel. Like that denotes some excitement or something at some point. And
well, I do think
even
that
when he commits a murder here, it's not very exciting.
I do think that the decision to present Ed Crane, the Billy Bob Thornton character, the way they did, is sort of a fundamental flaw. I know it's very much the whole point and what they're going for, but I think it does kind of remove any sorts of stakes or urgency or any sort of compelling dramatic heft to it. If he doesn't care what happens to him, it's very hard for the audience to care. Beyond sort of an intellectual exercise, and just being like, oh yeah, look, look at the Venetian blinds, And
it doesn't add that much comedy either, by removing the sort of dramatic tension and stakes elements from it is my problem.
There's stuff to chat on here about there's a meal to chew on in this movie. There's thoughts and ideas and themes and things that are being interlocuted. by the text, characters that have representative qualities. I like all that. I think it's okay.
Yeah, but I'm never going to sit down with my wife and be like, yeah, so tonight, what are we watching tonight? And tonight we're going to do A Man Who Wasn't There.
No.
She'll be asleep 40 minutes into it. And, she has every right to be. But I think it's gotten most of its value from this context. You have to be doing a completionist Coen thing, I think, to extract the maximum value from this one.
Sure. Yeah, I'm not going to go too hard to bat for it. I think there's a lot of other better movies here, but come on, it's. I wish there were more movies that did this sort of thing, I guess.
Okay, well, at number 18, at your 18, you have Hail Caesar. I had it 2 ranks higher at 16, but we're going to put it there for now. And this one, I feel like this is a couple of good scenes that don't have much of a movie. Stitching them together was my verdict on this one.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm a bit at a loss to be like, what's the thesis statement of Hail Caesar? What are we actually going for here? It doesn't seem to really care about its characters in that way. You're not worried about anyone in this. Despite there being a crime plot and ostensibly, some spy movie shit going on. It's the most weightless thing imaginable. It seems like just sort of an episodic delivery system for individual sketches based on, we like dancing sailor movies, or we like Busby Berkeley water ballets, these kind of old movies that the Coen brothers love so much. That's the entire hook of this thing, and it just doesn't do much for me. Yeah,
that was my take on it too. It feels more like a collection of sketches than Buster Scruggs, which is actually an anthology of short stories.
Yeah. Uh-huh. There's some neat
good
things about
performances
it.
in there.
Looks good. Looks
Ray
real good.
Fiennes,
Yeah.
Alden Ehrenreich, great. Some great kind of small one-off performances. I mean, Clooney's having fun, but it's not the third best Clooney performance we're going to talk about today.
No. That's the thing. Like the bar is high, and there's a lot of forces marshaled in service of Hail Caesar. Just in the design, in the cast, in the budget, in Deakins' work, and to what effect. Ultimately, I feel like if you had all those things, you maybe could have come up with something a little bit more impactful. And I don't think it's that funny. And it might be the only outright comedy that I'm not laughing much in, aside from Lady Killers, of course.
Yes, Lady Killers is not funny. This, you're right. The laughs are so heavily packed into the Ray Fiennes scene and the religious leader scene for me. Like that's where it all comes down from. You find the next movie we're going to talk about that you have at 17.
Mm-hmm.
Is Drive Away Dolls. And
I believe that
would
was
you
my
find
17,
that to be
yes.
funnier?
Yeah, I think it's probably funnier. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's not the funniest. There's a ceiling on dildo comedy that for me. Especially classy dildo comedy, which is kind of what Drive Away Dolls is.
I don't think. I think it's trying not to be classy.
It's
and
trying, but
that's the problem. Hail
it's
Caesar's
not a Trey
trying to be-
Parker. Yeah.
Yeah, but Hail Caesar is trying to maintain kind of a classiness about it in a way. That's why I ended up putting Drive Away Dolls a spot ahead of it, I think, on my list.
Oh, it's ahead of it on mine too. Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, this is I don't have much negative to say about Drive Away Dolls. It's mostly just sort of like, there's not much to it. I'm not excited by much of anything in this. I think Margaret Qualley's performance probably the best thing in the movie. That's my favorite part. Maybe give or take a Bill Camp, but that's a cameo. And
even Matt Damon's kind of a cameo.
Yeah,
Ian Qualley's holding the entire thing together throughout the whole movie, to the extent that it hangs together. I mean, but it's a big, broad, wacky comedy with not much more than dildos on its mind. It doesn't have the sort of quasi-religious theming that Hail Caesar is gesturing at, or communists.
Yeah, just sort of sort of a wash of some religion and communism and I don't know, studio system. Is that anything? Fucking Hail Caesar. That might be another one I'm a little less into than I initially was after this rewatch. that might have gone down a touch in my rankings than it had been before. Although I don't know what it would have been above. It's still, it always was kind of comfortably at the bottom, near the bottom for me.
Yeah, it was near the bottom for me too, but I think I cited it as like, this is the first time one's gotten better on rewatching. And I think it is one, I think it's largely because of the inside baseball industry stuff that it tends to get worse the farther away I get from it, from those like good scenes in my mind. Because that's what I remember is eight movies grand studio era stuff that it's an era I don't care about. And movies congratulate themselves on how amazing movies are is a pet peeve of mine.
Yeah, we moved on from it. And we're talking about it.
I love movies. We do this. Okay, so Driveway Dolls 17. Not that much there. I think it's a good time, a fun time for 80 minutes or so. Under 90 minutes is a comedy. Great. Hail Caesar, pushing a little over 2, I believe. That's another issue. So for our number 16, I guess we don't have that big of I'm surprised. Okay. We don't have, I thought we had a bigger difference between the two of us. We actually both have it pretty low, but I think we have it much lower than most Coen aficionados would. Whereas you have at 15, I have at 17, Barton Fink.
Yeah. 17.
Why do you hate art?
I don't hate Barton Fink. I think we're, frankly, I'm irritated that Intolerable Cruelty is above it. But aside from that, I think we're kind of entering into the good movie phase here. The point where these are all pretty like solid to great going forward. And I think Barton Fink would be at the bottom of that list for me. I don't think.
Yeah, I cannot make any case that Barton Fink is a bad movie.
Oh, no. No, there is a cult of Barton Fink that I am not part of. That I've seen the movie a number of times at this point, and I've just not gotten there. And it looks at this point, having been through this experience, I'm not going to get there. This will never be a favorite for me. But it's kind of undeniably got some game to it. There's certainly things in this that are pretty cool and pretty great. The John Goodman stuff in particular, is sort of indelible. It might be the best he's been in one of these movies, except there's Big Lebowski out there too. But it's still really great John
and there's
Goodman
Raising
stuff.
Arizona.
Yep.
God,
It's a tall bar. That said, it just doesn't really hang together, and it's one of those characters that I'm just. I kind of don't like him. I don't want to be around him. So,
You're talking about
I'm talking about Barton
Turturro
Fink
character, not
yes.
Barton Fink himself. Yes,
No, I want to hang out with Madman Munt. I would like to have dinner with him. Yes.
Even knowing that he decapitates people, I'd rather hang out with him than Barton Fink. And that's a problem. Barton Fink, the movie has that Barton Fink feeling.
Yeah.
We spend every scene with him, so he's a tough hang.
We've talked about how this maybe pairs with Hail Caesar. I don't know. I feel like having watched them all now I'm more like it's more of a Llewyn Davis type movie, actually. Which obviously it's that movie is not as sort of I don't know, fantastical or whatever. All the weird, creepy metaphors for hell going on. It's far more grounded, but the character of Barton Fink and Llewyn Davis. Those feel paired within the context of the Coens, which is almost sort of the sour version of a Coen protagonist.
They certainly do, and we can, if you just want to skip over Intolerable Cruelty, which is the next one, we can talk about Llewyn Davis next. You have Intolerable Cruelty right at the bottom after Lady Killers. I have it higher because I told a story about having a really good theater experience with it. That is just, I still enjoy it to this day, kind of based off that. But there's not a ton interesting about that movie to talk about. So Llewyn Davis, I see exactly what you mean about pairing with Barton Fink. I think the difference there in terms of watching those movies is that the work Llewyn's actually doing when the music is up on screen, it's a lot better to experience than
for sure.
Seeing the snippets of Barton's plays or watching him stare at a blank typewriter page.
I mean, that is kind of the thing about Barton Fink is that there is this contempt that the Coens have for him. It makes it really hard to engage with him as a character. And I get that's not really what they're after. They don't want you to feel bad for Barton Fink necessarily. But I do feel needs to be some sort of empathy if we're going to spend every scene with him or find him compelling in some way. And And sometimes the movie is just being like, look how uncompelling this guy actually is.
Yeah, it's hard to say because I feel that watching it, and then also one of my favorite things about the movie is the contempt it has for writers. It feels a lot more genuine than a lot of, screenplays about screenplay writers that purport to make fun of them, but really hold them in as the highest calling that anybody could ever pursue. And Burton Fink feels genuinely disabused of that. Unfortunately, watching him sit in a hotel room sweating and not writing is not the most. The Coen brothers can be so much more cinematically engaging than that. Llewyn Davis is much more cinematically engaging with that, even though it's a difficult character like that. Mm-hmm. You know what so we both had Llewyn Davis at 13 here, which, due to the vagaries of things, puts it at 14 on our rankings because of how we arrange these things. Is that everything else went higher than that by one of us. Now, the one thing I don't think I mentioned in the episode about Llewyn Davis, I don't really like the digital look of that movie. That when I was at this time, there's like digital makeup.
You just say the modern look, because that's how all movies look at this point.
Yeah, just that it's at once this very well realized 1960s recreation and everything, and then the actual faces of Oscar Isaac and Carey Mulligan are like have this digital smoothed over. They look kind of like, I don't know, Grand Moff Tarkin in Rogue One. And I'm not. I think I forgot to have us talk about that in that episode, but it's a baffling choice to me. It's not something I would expect the Coen brothers to go for at all. Maybe it's just like a very 2013 type of thing that was in vogue at the time.
I don't know. Would you say I think Hail Caesar looks pretty similar? It just happens to have a very different aesthetic, being,
it's more colorful. Yeah.
Golden Age LA, kind of Hollywood, as opposed to grimy New York in the 70s.
I don't think that they look as digitized there. I think that it looks more like Clooney and Scarlett Johansson have like kind of pancake makeup on.
Well, I guess you can see it more. Yeah. Fair enough. Okay. I don't know. I think it's a pretty good looking movie. I would say. I mean,
okay.
It's the deacons of it rather than the digital sheen, which, again, everyone is doing, and everyone at the time was like, this is how movies are going to be made from now on. We're all adjusting over to it at this time.
It is a very good looking movie overall. That's totally true. And it sounds great. That's what I said. The music of that just really carries it through. I mean, that makes it sort of it's a companion piece to both Barton Fink and Oh Brother Where Art Thou in terms of being a musical.
And look, we talked about this, in the episode quite a bit. It's a film that has sort of an emotional resonance for me in particular, or I think anybody who's attempted to make their living as an artist. That doesn't necessarily mean that I love the film, though. It's there's a connection I sort of have to it, but it's also a movie I'm unlikely to revisit anytime soon. It's it's a fucking downer for the one thing, but it's also just sort of, it lacks it lacks the things I would return to a film for. It's not particularly funny, and there's certainly not characters that you really love in it. What it has to offer, I guess, is sort of harsh truths, and that's not really the most appealing thing to keep engaging with necessarily.
Yeah, both it and Barton are kind of maybe not just one and done, but you take a pretty big gap between rewatches.
Yeah.
Okay, so our next one, I guess our number 13 here is the Hudsucker Proxy. Mm-hmm. This is one of the bigger gaps between us. I had it down at 18 and you had it up at 11. So that is a pretty big gap as far as a 20
that is.
goes. You had this above some heavier hitters in the canon. Llewyn Davis and Barton Fink. Also Blood Simple. Also,
that's the big one. Sir? I really came around on this film in this rewatch. This is probably the film that rose most for me this last year. Definitely. Now that I think about it, I kind of love this one a little bit. I think it has some issues, but I've kind of accepted them and come to grow to like the things that it's doing more. And I just thinking of it more along the lines of a Blazing Saddles type thing really helps me with this. If this is outright satire, right. I think, as opposed to an example of the thing itself, of the Preston Sturges newsroom comedy, this is as a parody of sorts. I think it succeeds for me, and it sort of papers over any of the issues I might have had previously. And, there's models of cities and stuff, and, the magical time clock thing, all this crazy shit. I just can't deny it. I enjoy it too much. There's too many good jokes in this movie.
So it's not just that you appreciate it more as a technical exercise.
No, I like it all. I like all the things in there. This is a funny movie.
I do think viewing it all as a satire does help the movie. I don't know if that makes it any funnier necessarily.
The pants gag, man.
I don't know. There's other comedies.
Double
There's
Stitch.
The big broad ones I like better than this.
There are better ones, sure. I mean, we're talking about the Coen brothers, but this is more in a continuity with them than I originally thought.
It certainly has more like visual motifs to the rest of their work than it does, I guess, thematic stuff. I mean, well, the circle of the hula hoop is a big thing. And then I suppose you could talk about this being one of the examples about them being skeptical of like self-improvement and, climbing the ladder, whatever. He pursues his dreams and succeeds and makes him a worse person, and also succeeds not based on merit, but and that's, as we said, that's where satire comes in. Not even that really based on morality, because he's not. Norman Barnes is not a good guy. Actually,
no, he had one good idea though. That's the rules of the system. He had one good idea. It's a circle.
Yeah, I guess that's how you invent one thing, and then you get to destroy Medicaid, I guess. I don't know.
Sure, yeah.
Anyway, I guess I don't want to take anybody Hudsucker away from anybody that likes it.
Where do you have it?
Where'd
you have it? Oh, 18.
Yeah.
Woof. Okay. Fair enough.
I was like,
other people
like it
hate
better
it,
than Barton Fink, maybe, but Barton Fink's a better movie, I have to admit. This is kind of how I viewed that. Okay, so number 12, we're going to do Burn After Reading.
Mm-hmm.
I had at 10, you had down at 14, which surprises me in that if you had asked me this earlier this morning, I would have said that you liked this movie better than me.
No, I mean, I have my issues with this movie. I think it's funny. Kind of ends there, honestly, though. I don't think this movie does not speak to me. It makes me laugh. I enjoy it. But, beyond funny performances, doing funny stuff, I'm not much taken with the thematic ideas of Burn After Reading.
Yeah, I mean, it is making definite the satire that we are tentatively projecting onto Hudsucker. It is definitely doing all these things about how these characters are all idiots that deserve what's coming to them.
Yeah, and but they don't even merit comeuppance in most cases because they're so small and sort of penny ante in their goals and their sins. They're sort of dumb and small. Seems to be the perspective of the movie. And coming after No Country for Old Men, it really does feel like the most nihilistic goddamn thing. It's just like, look how stupid we all are. Aren't we dumb? Aren't we dumb? And it's just sort of, I don't really have a problem with that per se, but it is the pervasive mode of the film. It's just sort of a cynical sex farce, which, weird.
Broader, wackier counterpoint to The Man Who Wasn't There then, in terms of the nihilism on display and how it becomes a thing of like, okay, but is that enough to sustain a 100-minute movie? If it's like, is this a movie that could have been a sketch?
Well, again, I think it's kind of good. It's a good movie. I don't have a problem with it at all, really. It's just that this is the Coen brothers' filmography, and there's, some incredible films in this. So
that's true. It's like what you have to edge out. above that is pretty difficult.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I'll let you off the hook for that one. It's a good movie.
Yes.
And it's quite funny. It's got maybe one of the top 10 like endings of any movie I've ever seen. Like literal final scene, final line endings. It's like this in Casablanca, just
Yeah,
opposite ends of the spectrum.
The ending is lovely, and it's an appropriate ending for this. It would irritate me in a movie that I cared more about the characters, I think. Like, I would be annoyed if this happened in a movie that was working more for me on that level. But since this movie eschews all that, it's the perfect ending for Burn After Reading.
Yeah. Okay. So then
I feel bad.
Number
It's a
11.
good movie. I like Burn
Yeah.
After Reading. It's just, there's
Hi.
a lot of movies on this list.
What you like better is The Tragedy of Macbeth, which you put 5 spaces higher. You have it number 9. I had it number 12. So it's in the middle there on our rankings. We're, I guess, kind of, Shakespeare sickos to a degree. So that probably helps it.
Yep.
This probably even hurt Man Who Wasn't There, maybe pushed it down another notch. I might be like, well, as established, I'm not a big aficionado of black and white cinema, but if I wanted to see the Coen brothers do black and white cinematography, give me this all day long over Man Who Wasn't There.
It really is a hell of a looking film. It's quite good looking, quite impressive, and that really contributes to the whole, like the theatricality of this. We are not fucking around trying to present like medieval Scotland in this movie. No, it is not happening. We're not being transported there. We are being transported into I don't know, a castle of the mind. This is entirely about the characters and the thoughts and I, as somebody with who has seen a lot of productions of Macbeth, and knows the story, knows it back and forth to some extent. I don't need to see the umpteenth just straight version of this play. Fuck with it. Do things with it. Find a creative way to get at what is most interesting to you about it. And I think they do that here. Now, I think the argument could be made that what's most interesting about it is that they want to have these actors play these roles.
Yes.
like Frances McDormand, Denzel Washington wanted to play these characters. They wanted to play around with some black and white, non-realistic photography, and those are the reasons that movie exists, maybe. But it's just such an indestructible object that if you put great actors and great filmmakers at the thing and have say get nuts, do your Macbeth, you're going to come up with something pretty entertaining and pretty good, and they certainly do here. This grew as well in my rewatch. I wasn't sure this was an all-timer. Now it is. Yep, really, really good stuff.
Yeah, and we kind of went over this in that episode. Mm-hmm. I kind of think that those main roles are miscast, but they knock the witches so far out of the park that it's like you only have to do one thing to differentiate your version from everybody else's, and on the strength of the witches presentation alone, this movie distinguishes itself as a Macbeth adaptation in my mind. And if the other stuff, I have more mixed feelings about the old ass Macbeths. Between the cinematography and the Catherine Hunter performance, like full marks. It's one of the best, just based on that.
Yeah, it's just fun, just entertaining. Yeah, I will come back to this. This is one I feel myself being like, I didn't know until I rewatched it. Now I'm just like, oh yeah, this is a hot one. This is going to be easy to rewatch over and over and over again. And
the other thing we talked about in that episode, but way more of a Rosetta Stone for the Coen filmography, that their thematics, preoccupations than I realized the first time through.
Macbeth, the play, is basically like voicing all this stuff for the first time, and in the history of I don't know. That's sort of a broad statement, but it does seem to set open these questions about fate and who you are as a person really, when removing all the fripperies and narratives that we've created for ourselves. Who are you really at the heart of your soul? That's all kind of, well, I mean, it's Macbeth. It's Rosetta Stone for many, many, many stories.
Sure.
Let alone their whole filmography.
But people trying to, improve their lot through criminal
Crimes.
means and ruining themselves in the process, and also getting a glimpse of the future, being told, the secret truths of the universe, and having that ruin you rather than save you is
It doesn't help to know that you will be killed by someone not born of woman, or when Burnham Wood to Dunsinane comes. Yeah, it sounds like bullshit when you just hear it out of context.
But in fact, it leads you to opening yourself up to being killed by the man who's not a woman born. Anyway.
Yeah, good stuff. And it makes sense that they did it, and I'm glad they did it. It's cool. I want them to do another one. I'd rather a trilogy of Shakespeare adaptations than a trilogy of lesbian crime capers. Oh, well.
Yeah, I'll take that too, I guess.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
I mean, I'll see how the second one goes. I don't mind the first one. So, okay, so now we're getting up to the top 10. Number 10 is going to be Miller's Crossing. I had 9, you had a 10, so we're pretty much on target there.
This is the one where it hurts because I wanted this higher. I think it's a great film. I think it belongs higher, but I'm running out of room here, man.
This is always a hard one for me to rank. I don't know. I still don't know how much I love this movie. It's such a unique movie that it doesn't. It's hard to rank it because it doesn't feel right comparing it to other gangster movies.
No,
it doesn't feel like it's doing the same thing at all as Once Upon a Time in America, much less like Goodfellas or Godfather or something. But I guess it is technically a gangster picture. But no, it's something much more stagey and theatrical that it's doing.
Yeah, there's sort of a morality play to it that is interesting. I mean, my one thing that kind of holds me back on this is the Gabriel Byrne. I don't know if it's the performance or the character. It's not hitting for me like I think it ought to. Like, I don't know what the issue is there, but it's not a protagonist that I'm that invested or interested in.
Well, I think we're supposed to be skeptical of him increasingly as the movie, wraps up. I would throw, though, Marcia Gay Harden in there, too, as somebody who's never really blown me away, except maybe as the villain in The Mist. But you in exchange there, you get the Polito, Turturro, and Finney.
Well, they're great. They're all wonderful.
Yes, enough for a feast between the three of them. Yeah,
love all them. If you want to say it's the best work of any of their careers, I'd probably accept that. I mean, Finney's got a pretty incredible career, but
I'd have to really dig into Finney. And Turturro, you could say it's the best work of his career or the 6th best. And it's like, he's got a bunch of really great.
Yeah, Polito, there's no question.
Polito has never given this good material again. I feel like, he gets a decent run on Homicide, I suppose. But here it's playing to his very particular strengths in a way that kind of makes the movie.
Yeah, he's wonderful in it. It's a good ass movie. That's just a neat script. And this is, kind of at their era when they're doing, they're working with like Sonnenfeld and Raimi, and the movies have this kind of this pop and verb. They're early, they're young man movies, and they're just exciting, a little bit intoxicating, and just the shit they're getting away with. And it's such it refuses to be a comedy, even as there's many elements that could be comedic in it. It demands you take it seriously. But it surprises you in what it's about and how it's about those things. It's, just kind of an endlessly inventive and interesting movie. I would like it to be higher on my list, but, at what cost? At what cost?
Well, that's one of those things I say. It's a unique movie. It's hard to pin down either kind of in genre and kind of in tone. Because I think if you read that as a script, it probably reads a lot more like a comedy.
I would think so, yes.
The sort of, there's almost like His Girl Friday type oxygen banter going on in every scene.
Yeah, Polito's material is funny, and he's funny in the movie. But it's sort of, he just comes across as a person who is funny, rather than.
But Byrne is like somebody who's constantly clever but doesn't come off as funny. Exactly.
No.
Okay. Well, from there we'll go to people who are not very clever and talk about Blood Simple. That's number 9. I got this one number 8. You had it down at 12. That's a
12.
relatively wide gap between us as we go through these. I don't think that's because you have any dislike for this, though. I assume it's just one of those things where something has to get edged out of the top 10. And
I'm afraid so. Yeah. I mean, I could say the same things I said about Miller's a moment ago. It might also be a thing where the ostensible protagonist of the thing is just not somebody I'm too invested in, and that maybe makes the whole feel a little less not good. It still feels really good. A little less essential, perhaps, because you got Frances McDormand, Dan Hedaya, M. Emmett Walsh, kind of all showing up and hitting grand slams, and then there's John Getz. Yeah. And he's fine. He doesn't hurt the film per se, but it's the table. There's one leg is a little short on the table.
Yeah, and maybe if
Bill Paxton would have
the first
nailed
half
it.
of the movie had presented Frances McDormand's character as more of a equal co-lead to him in the way that she will take over by the end, maybe that transition would have felt better somehow narratively. But overall, this is a very spare but very good-looking movie. It's just one of the perfect examples, I'd say, up there with Reservoir Dogs for Tarantino. Like these filmmakers coming out kind of fully formed, all of their thematic preoccupations, their narrative things that they'll return to repeatedly, they're all there just on you see them working on a budget, and then there's a pleasure to that, and then seeing them get to blow it out later and do a No Country or a Pulp Fiction. Right.
Yeah. It is, I don't know. I mean, in the context of their filmography, it feels so much like a first film,
Yes.
Despite being kind of really a complete package already in many ways.
In the best way you could mean that, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. Undeniable too. It's kind of well, I mean, Lauren Visser, what a great character immediately. One of the great characters of their filmography, present in the first film, the best role of M. Emmett Walsh's career. And just, I think that guy works so well that, the movie kind of, anytime he's on screen, I lean forward a little bit. That's kind of an incredible performance, characterization, everything about him, his look, all those choices are just so high level. And that maybe just the existence of that character is kind of the thing that really, really sets this aside and tags it as one of the great films by one of the great filmmakers, team filmmaker, whatever. You take him out of the movie, I don't know. I don't know if it has the esteem. I mean, it's a pointless question, I guess, because he's in the movie.
Yeah, what movie would there be?
Yeah.
There's only 4 characters in the movie. You can't remove one of them. And there's nothing, like, the thing doesn't hold together anymore.
No, there's no movie.
It's like, I don't know. If you made this pizza without cheese, I'm not sure it'd hold together. It's not the premise of this pizza, though.
Your point is taken. It's a short film about Dan Hedaya getting cucked. Then,
which is
still pretty good, actually.
Favorite tabs on RedTube. Don't get me wrong, but as a narrative film, you got to fill up 92 minutes. Okay, from Blood Simple, number 8 for us. For number 8 for you was Buster Scruggs.
Mm-hmm.
I had it down at 11, just outside of the top 10. But I think
we kind of swapped, basically. Yeah,
I think that. Much like kind of the opposite of Barton Fink. I think for a lot of the Letterboxd crowd that we generally would run with would put Barton Fink as one of their masterpieces and Buster Scruggs as one of their lessers. And you and I both came out of this rewatch really, really liking Buster Scruggs.
Yeah, it rules. I think this movie's great. I think it's super good. A lot of fun, a lot to chew on. Like, it's entertaining on its own. You don't need the context of all the Coen brothers movies before it to really get something out of it. But I think if you do have that, it's quite interesting. It's quite compelling. I think all the segments work, which is unusual for an anthology. Some are better than others. You You don't like the Liam Neeson one, I know, but
it's very built around a punchline. So
yeah, but it's like 7 minutes long. It's it's.
I think it's like 12 or something. Yeah.
But
that's fine.
it's all.
I love The Girl Who Got Rattled more than anybody else, so I think that levels out.
Yeah, well, that is the highlight, but it's all good, man. It's all really interesting, and it's this is a good example of kind of a control of the technical aspects of filmmaking that really elevates the whole thing. Like, anthologies are just notoriously difficult to get right, and this comes as close as any I've seen to being kind of like across the boards. The whole thing works and reinforces. All the stories kind of feed into each other thematically and make it more interesting, but not directly. It's sort of slantwise. Yeah. You know, they're
not
sort of,
narratively and not even really tonally. Like your other, what's the like Creep Show or something like. Sure. Your Tales from the Crypt type anthologies, they're all going to have a similar horror tone to them. And this has a Tales from the Crypt with the Neeson one. And I guess the Mortal Remains is also kind of a Tales from the Crypt thing, but it's also got some really goofy stuff in there. It's, The Girl Who Got Rattled is more classical tragedy. The Tom Waits was uplifting.
Yeah.
And, Buster Scruggs and Franco, I guess those are grim, but they come off as a lot funnier than, more comic in their resolutions.
Buster Scruggs is a Looney Tunes cartoon, basically. Yeah. I mean, you could actually make a Looney Tunes cartoon with the exact events of that. I don't know. He does shoot a lot of people, I guess.
Yeah, you'd have to substitute it. Bugs Bunny would have to be doing something other than shooting them. But
right.
And then, hitting him with pies, and then he gets hit with one at the end or something. I don't know what it would be. But
exactly.
Yeah. Uh-huh. No, it's a great movie. And like you said,
quite the looker too.
Maybe like a final frontier of like, what have we not? What do we've let's just do a full blown anthology. Hail Caesar was 2/3 of the way there.
Yeah,
let's just do it, and now we've done everything, and we can go try and do solo things. They're out there, doing Macbeth and comedies as sort of one armed push ups now.
I mean, yeah, you could kind of maybe say that Buster Scruggs is kind of an argument that we're getting complacent, but it's the best possible version of that. It is. Yeah. It's the best possible kind of movie that makes everyone realize they need to change things up. It's
and one of the best movies Netflix has produced. I'd say I don't have a list.
Quietly, yes, I would say without question. In fact, I mean, what's the real competition here? I mean,
Irishman.
The Irishman. I like this more than The Irishman.
Well, me too, but I don't like The Irishman. But people, it's generally acknowledged to be a creative success in a way that most Netflix. In a way that Netflix original does not evoke in people's mind as a term.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I have this over The Kissing Booth 1 and 3, but I don't know about 2. Okay. Right.
Yeah, that is one that really peaked in the middle of that trilogy. Like The Dark Knight. Okay, moving up. Number 7. This one migrated around mine a little bit, but ultimately we both put it at number 6, which puts it at number 7 on our combined list, which is A Serious Man.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's getting into the sort of the lights out territory now, man. These are like 5-star movies at this point. Yeah.
I know that as we're talking about this, I'm going to want to like move it up another notch too, because it's man, what a perfect example of kind of a brilliant movie that could be made by no one else.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah. You wouldn't even want to see somebody else's version of this.
No.
Well, I don't know. Now that I say that, I'm just like, wonder what Aronofsky would come up with. But
maybe Noah Baumbach could do like a more toned down iteration of it somehow.
Yeah, but that's close tonally, I suppose. I don't know. I'm almost kind of a little curious about like what Spielberg's take on Midwestern Jewry would be, but I guess that's sort of just the Fabelmans, and you
have an answer.
And the answer is, it's very personal and emotional and much more upbeat.
I guess the person most likely to have attempted some of this would be Woody Allen. And we kind of like know what that would look very similar, not as visually it would not look as impressive. And rather than like the neighbor lady that he like peeps on, it would be like her 15-year-old daughter that he actually goes over and sleeps with, and then she gives him a big speech about how he's such a great lover, but too neurotic for her.
Yeah, that is Manhattan. Yes. That's a good comparison, I suppose. But I mean, it is ultimately, pure Coens, because this is not just about being Jewish in the Midwest. This is about the big questions of life and existence and fate, and is there a God, and does it matter, and what does morality look like? Does it even exist? These are the things.
Yeah, all the movies are kind of about that. This one is tackling it and really wrestling with it, like Jacob wrestling with the angel.
Well, if you can't really be a Coen Brothers fan, I would say, well, yeah, you can be a fan, obviously, but you can't really be a big enthusiast for their work, I think, without kind of really liking this one. I mean, because this is such their stuff. I mean, unless you're like, no, I like Fargo for the plot, and that's it. But for the most part, this is like, this is kind of the most Coen Brothers film, right?
Yeah, if you're not into this one, then you don't necessarily like the Coen Brothers that much. But you like appreciate them as technicians, perhaps, of when they work in genre, because they're really fucking good at that. As we'll discuss, I mean, but we kind of with Blood Simple, that's an incredible piece of technical genre work, and it also has this other stuff going on that this drops the genre trappings and just does the thematic stuff.
Well,
and
the
it's
question,
got some great jokes in it.
The question does remain that, like, I mean, obviously this is a film for a small audience. It's so personal. It's so film nerdy, and there's no mass appeal to this movie. It's entirely divorced from even considering those questions. Yeah. So, I don't know. I don't know that I would recommend this to people unless they were just like, I really want to get into the Coen Brothers movie, and I'd like to watch 7 of them. So
yeah, that's true. It's not necessarily one you'd recommend to a normie.
Yeah.
Somebody who's not like an avowed film.
Mm-hmm. This is advanced studies Coens for sure.
Yes. Yeah. Because it is, I guess that's true. You got to be a little pointy headed for this one. Otherwise, like, there's some parts in here that made me laugh really hard, but the laughs are probably a little too far between.
Yeah, like Ronnie, our guest on that episode, was just like, I don't know what you guys are talking about for this. It was like, no, if you watch them all, this is clearly what it's about.
Yeah. I knew that going in, though, that it was Serious Man would operate that way. I was surprised how much Macbeth operated that way.
Right.
I was surprised how much Blood Simple had already, nascent forms, but it was already there. But this one is, its most direct articulation, along with No Country, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's like that. That's plainly like a crowd pleaser compared to this.
Well,
with its difficult ending,
yes.
Even with that, it's so much more functional as a film an audience would enjoy than A Serious Man, which has no criminals, no guns, no action scenes, just eschatological questions.
Yeah, enjoy is becomes a difficult word to like. It starts to mean something different for the two different movies, but yeah, because it's the same type of material, but done as the grimmest crime thriller ever versus a broad but not really wacky comedy. I mean, it's a unique piece of work. I mean, talking myself into wanting to say it should be higher than 7. But then I look at what comes next, number 6, True Grit.
Well,
man, yeah. True Grit's. I had it at 5, you had it at 7, so it nets out to 6 here. And man, just one of the. That is one. Yeah, welcome the normies in. Everybody come along. This is fun. You have enough Coen-ness in there that it doesn't feel like I'm doing just for hire work or something. That
not at all.
Joel had the line. I don't know if we ever talked about it in one of the episodes, but sort of some interview had asked him about making some movie that's not commercial. It could have been any of a half a dozen of them. And he talked about having just a vision one day of 10 years from now, you coming to interview me on the set of a Marvel movie where I'm wearing a gold chain and saying, well, I got to eat, right? And True Grit's not that. It is their most commercial, I said normie friendly thing, but it does not feel like they are doing one for them.
No, I'm almost like, you look at the entire list and it's just like, well, yeah, I guess that's the most commercial. I mean, it's a Western, which is not like, that's not a slam dunk genre at the box office. Even then, you know.
Not in this era, yeah.
And it's incredibly wordy. You know, there's so much dialogue, very little action. Almost all of it is wordplay and character-based conversations. A lot of them are funny. That helps. And then it ends with this odd melancholy. You don't leave the theater feeling like, fuck yeah, True Grit. You're kind of just like struggling with what you just saw at the end. And it's sort of a tonal mismatch initially is how you might approach it. And I mean, it is kind of.
Yeah, but I mean,
it's
I
still,
love that.
I love it. But
I think going back to like, you know,
200 million hit.
The Hobbit made me feel that way as a kid too. You know, it was, like this was a really fun adventure until like the last 10 pages, and then he woke up and 6 of the dwarves were dead. But yeah, I don't mind that as a capper on an adventure story, and you know,
I love it. But it's surprising that it is successfully their biggest populist hit with that in place.
Yeah. Because the other candidates for that are things, you know, you look at their other big popular movies, Fargo, Lebowski, No Country. Those became kind of phenomenons, but they're not because they were catering to a 4-quadrant audience by any means. Like,
no,
the audiences came to those things.
I mean, you know what their biggest attempt to find a large audience was?
Intolerable Cruelty.
No, Hudsucker was supposed to be.
Oh, yeah.
That was supposed to be their big audience hit. That was they were hoping to make a ton of money on that one. Something that general audiences would love was sort of the directive for coming up with that. And their immediate follow-up was Fargo, which succeeded by being not that at all.
The general audiences in 1946 maybe would have loved Hudsucker.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's why they're never going to make Marvel films. It's not really, you know, it's not something that sits easily on their head, you know, that title. You know, they couldn't do a Dark Knight or anything like that. They never will. And, you know, that's great, really, but it's kind of unusual, you know. And I don't know. I guess certain people just sort of find themselves in a position to make films like this, you know, personal expressions. It seems very rare, but especially now. But these guys got in the door early enough somehow. Right. And basically since Fargo, it's been smooth sailing forever.
Fargo is going to be our number 5. You had it at 4. I had it down at 7. I don't know why I put Serious Man above it. I guess I talked myself into it.
Right, yeah, I remember that. You weren't as taken by Fargo as I am.
I think Fargo is one that it hurts. It's hurt somewhat by its successors and imitators. That it's had some really good ones. Not like I suppose like Pulp Fiction. Like when you say a Pulp Fiction ripoff, it's pretty clear that's not a positive thing.
Yeah.
But I think the Coens have iterated on a lot of the elements of Fargo afterward in ways that were even more effective. And then I think of stuff like Breaking Bad, for example, like some of the Jerry Lundegaard stuff to a really high degree of excellence. And that's something, I don't know. I guess that maybe that's the Jerry Lundegaard character type has been articulated really well on TV in the modern era.
Oh, I think
and that takes away something from the original in a way.
I think that there's a singular quality to William H. Macy in this film that
I'm not trying to knock him.
It's a kind of a perfect encapsulation of that kind of weakness and that kind of guy in a way that is tough to touch. And, you know, there's probably been twistier things that have come out in the wake of this because this is, as you say, a remarkably influential movie. Maybe the most influential movie on this list, possibly. And I think I'd go with that. I think I'd go with that. Yeah.
Well,
you know,
it's kind of No Country, right?
Yeah, I mean, No Country would be the other contender for that title, I would say. But this one, I think, has worked its way into just into the minds of people writing for television in such a direct way. You know, like there's so many Fargo-esque stories. It's a very very apt descriptor for a lot of things, and you can kind of just see it. The diaspora of Fargo influences in so many things. It's like Silence of the Lambs in that way. You know, it's kind of hard to keep track of it all.
And it's Light Side of the Lambs in another way, in that I think both Silence and Fargo the movie are hurt for me a little bit by liking TV adaptations even better just in some ways than I do the original movie.
Fair enough. I don't know. I feel that's more. I don't know, man. I hold both those movies in such esteem, as much as I like the shows, and they're both awesome. But that's a tough one for me. These ones are good, man. Fargo's real good.
Well, it's also, I mean, I dropped all these criticisms or whatever. They drop it down to 7 for me.
Sure.
Because there are 6 masterpieces above it. Like, I just love True Grit that much. It's a very entertaining movie. I would, if he maybe put on Fargo or True Grit tonight, most nights I'm going to choose True Grit. That's what I came down to.
I think most nights I'd pick Fargo. So, yeah. Well, that makes sense, and both are valid.
Yeah. Okay. We are in the top 5 now, up to number 4, which is about as low down as you could be while saying that we might people might object to it being this low. But number 4 is where I had The Big Lebowski. Mm-hmm. You had it number 5.
Yeah.
And I don't think either of us has a negative thing to say about this movie.
Oh, hell no. No.
I think there's just an element of overexposure perhaps to it that leads me to appreciate the ones that come right after it here. That don't have that element to it.
10 or 15 years ago, this had been my number 1, I think.
Certainly was a time for me when it would have been.
Yeah. Uh-huh. There's a time in your life for The Big Lebowski where it has the chance to really find purchase, you know, and perhaps one of those times is when you are kind of looking for a way forward in life and trying to figure out, you know, what it is you actually want to do with your life. When you have a bit of an aimless quality to you, this is a film that can really speak to you. I don't know. Perhaps that's a projection of my own, but it feels like
it's not like it's going to give you any direction.
No, it's going to valorize your aimlessness.
Right.
And that's
even valorize seems like a strong word.
No, that is a philosophical choice.
Yeah,
it is a lifestyle.
It does make him a detective, the hero, like the Philip Marlowe detective. That's a valorous role, even if he doesn't act valorously.
No, the fact that it is not, you know, a celebration of the dude and his lifestyle is part of the appeal. Is that there is, you know, that he is a bit of a buffoon and a comic creation, but at the same time, you know, there is a quality of accepting things with grace that feels like a principled choice from the dude, and indeed kind of, you know, reaffirms his lifestyle approach. You know, you don't want to be the the sheriff of Malibu. You know, you want to be, or you don't want to be Brandt. You want to be the dude. You know, or
that's right.
Or Jeffrey Lebowski. You know, he takes things as they come, and he's not going to stress that the Creedence tape got lost. It's no big deal. Yeah. Obviously, this has been spoken about plenty of times. It's just a great fucking comedy.
Yeah. In a totally unique comedy. It's when I'm like, I'm not sure if I'd say the same thing as A Serious Man, where like, I wouldn't want to see anybody else attempt this, but nobody else would on their own accord. Like a stoner version of a Philip Marlowe character, you can do that. Absolutely. The amount of bowling that is in this movie,
right.
Just that, making this movie more about bowling than it is about solving the mystery is such a weird choice that I've never seen. I feel like I've ever seen that fully unpacked. I don't know that we fully unpacked in a 2-part episode, but it's something that kind of feels like it could only come from, you know, your AI chatbot's never going to come up with this pitch, and it's such a unique movie. What could be better than that? What 3 movies could be better than that?
Indeed.
We actually have all 3. We have the order is different, but our top 3s are the same.
I'm not surprised by that, actually.
So the one, number 3 is going to be Oh Brother, because neither of us picked that as a number 1.
Okay.
You had it at 3, I had it 2. Mm-hmm. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? I just find this to be one of the most watchable movies I've ever seen. Just every scene.
Yeah.
I low-key delights me.
Before this run through, I probably would have had this under Fargo and Lebowski, but no, it's a masterpiece of a very high order here. Probably the most underrated film even though it's a movie everyone loves.
Yeah, it was kind of a phenomenon in the moment. And then it hasn't had the legs of Lebowski for whatever reason. But
Right.
I rewatching them all, I laugh quite a bit more at Oh Brother than I do at Big Lebowski these days. And part of that's overexposure, repetition. Things don't hit the same. But also that music hits the same every time.
It's a gorgeous, wonderful, thrilling musical film. It's just the most fucking fun. Just an infectious energy and joy of performance in this movie. That's not even what it's about. It's just present on screen in the people. That are in the work everyone is doing here is joyous. Everyone is having the fucking time of their life making this movie, and it bleeds out, and it's impossible not to have a great time watching it. It's a magical movie, really great stuff, and the world building here. Well, of all these movies, honestly, this list of the top here, the 8 top movies, whatever you want to call it, the world building is unbelievable. The place that they put these stories, the way that they present them, it's kind of their secret weapon, and why these films breathe and live so much. Well, there's a lot of reasons, but that's a big one. Is just how completely part of their world you feel while watching them, and none more so than Oh Brother. I just want to live in this Dust Bowl fucking world that everyone seems to be.
Yeah, it's so inviting.
Yeah. Like, it's great. It's so funny.
And it has their thematic preoccupations are all in there too.
Yeah. Effortlessly.
And you have, the Anton Chigurh Nemesis figures in there too. They're fully present in here. Mm-hmm. The digital photography, like you said, looks great and warm and colorful all the time. And yeah, I mean, is this my favorite Clooney performance? I think actually his best performance is probably the Ocean's movies, even though that's, the knock there is that he's playing himself, but I think that nobody else could do that to that degree. And
yeah, I mean, he holds those movies quite well, but I love this film way more than any of those. This is my favorite George Clooney performance. No question for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Full accepted.
I mean, it's there's some other ones. Tim Blake Nelson's my favorite his performances too. And he's generally a great actor.
Sure.
Like a lot of people.
But that's less of a crowded field.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
He hasn't worked as much.
He doesn't have a Michael Clayton under his belt. It's true.
Exactly. Okay, so now it brings us to your number 1. I had number 3, but 2, 3, 4 here for me are all pretty interchangeable.
Yeah.
They're all good. It's kind of a tie for second, but that's Raising Arizona. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I guess both of us had it as the highest of their comedies that we ranked. Yeah. I guess I put Oh Brother above it, but tied.
I love talking about this movie with you because, I mean, to really unpack the multiple levels on which it's succeeding, and also managing to say all the typical Coen Brothers things that are rarely emotional, rarely have this sort of resonance where I'm gonna feel moved to tears by the end of the thing. But it's all here within the context of a broad comedy about goofy cartoon people. I'm still kind of in awe of this movie. It's one of my favorite films of all time, without question. Top 10. And I always consider maybe there's a Coen Brother movie I'm going to like more than this. The next one we're going to talk about is a real contender, as are the 3 we just talked about. But it's never,
it's top 5 is really
crowded. Never quite happened. This is just one of the most perfect films ever made, man. Raising Arizona. What can you say? And as a new parent, it has a resonance that that I actually had not credited it with before. So yeah,
I mean, it's one to me that speaks to the aimlessness thing more than Lebowski.
It's about being young for sure. Yeah,
yeah, and aimless and trying to figure out what settling down actually means.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not necessarily thinking I need to go have kids. That's the only way to do it. But it was just sort of
it's grasping at that though. It's
at a certain point you just got to drive past the Quickie Mart and not go in. Whatever your version of the Quickie Mart might be. Whether For me, maybe it's a riverboat casino. But it is, we talked about this in the episode. It's got one of the best endings in movie history. It's got one of the best openings in movie history. It's got one of the best chases in movie history in the middle. It's perfect kind of all the way through. I'd say easily the best thing that Nick Cage has ever done in my books. Probably the best thing Holly Hunter's ever done. I love this movie.
Yeah. A stirring masterpiece. One of the great American films. And a watershed moment in cinema. If you listen to Quentin Tarantino, it's that big a deal. It's kind of nuts that a film can be this good and be about the stuff this movie's about.
All that and in 90 minutes.
Yeah, it's an outrageous achievement. Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't. It has the thing our last movie does not have that Raising Arizona has is brevity.
No.
Actually, you know what?
It's not that long.
We talked about this.
Yeah.
We talked about this in those episodes too. It is shorter than you think. You always kind of in your mind it feels so epic that you kind of assume No Country for Old Men is 2.5 hours long, but no, it's 2 hours and 2 minutes.
Yeah, well, it's like having a steak dinner, though. You know, at the end, it ends and you're like, wow, I'm spent. Yeah.
Well, it feels like you have a full dinner and the movie ends, and then there's 20 minutes of epilogue. And so I think that's what makes you think, oh, that must be the 20 and the 2 hours 20. And, but it's not. But what it is, maybe the greatest crime thriller ever made on a technical level. The best work of several people's careers. Just an amazing work of sound design, as we talked about, on top of everything else. And really up there for me and one of the best theater experiences I've ever had.
Yeah, it's there's nothing you can say against this film. That's for sure. But that's been true for a while of these. What was it about No Country that makes it comfortably, right at the top of this list? I had it too. And that's because I'm not engaged. I'm not having my heart warmed at any point by this, maybe. But I am being touched in my soul, I guess, watching this movie. This is a disquieting film. There's stuff that it demands you wrestle with, which is unusual for a film that is this conventionally entertaining through most of its run. You get to the end and it like sits you down and is like, so you know what you actually got to think about here is
is this and this.
Yeah.
But it did. I did sit down thinking about those things.
Oh, yeah.
One of the reasons why this is up there for me is, with the best movies ever made. This is one of the very short list of movies where it explicitly changed my thinking about things. Like it gave me vocabulary that then is now hardwired into my mind for how I view things. Fundamentally, how I view nostalgia and America was different the day before I saw this movie and the day after this movie. And it's not a movie that is, it's not born on the 4th of July that was trying to politically radicalize me or anything. It's just like, I guess because it changed the way I think about aging.
Oh, yeah.
I saw it as a fairly young person. And that then changed the way I view a lot of things about, including living in a gerontocracy.
Well, we're coming up on, this is almost 20 years old, this film at this point.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it certainly changes with your age. There's a resonance to this that, I don't know, it might come from having seen it at a younger age and then revisiting it now. One of those things where, no, it's not just speaking to old people. It's just speaking to me differently a little bit now than it used to. The old stuff is still valid. It's just that I have a different appreciation of some of it now. Movies that keep revealing themselves more, the more your life changes. Those are kind of the really special ones in a lot of ways, right? I mean, there's a reason that you hit a certain age and the Goonies no longer speaks to you. But there are movies that kind of change with you, evolve with you, become more resonant with time. And the older you get, the more, and this would be on a short list for films that do that well.
Yeah. I mean, it's a legit, undeniable work of art on top of putting all other crime thrillers to shame on their own terms.
This is definitely like a top 10 all-time film for you, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's probably, I mean, tough. It's top 5. Maybe it's up there. It affected me in ways, and it holds up.
Yeah.
Hasn't lost really any punch over time. I mean, I could say the same thing about Raising Arizona. It still kind of affects me. It's not quite as deeply or as traumatically. But yeah,
maybe we should do an episode on our top 10 movies. Just that. Oh, what? What do we
the whole premise of this show is like a way to get around that by like, let's do our top 120 movies.
Right. Yeah,
but this kind of this
is a tough one to answer.
Yeah, I mean, I thought we could do some form of drafting or something from the movies we've covered. Like, do we, or if we all want to pick one from each director or something, I don't know. We could come up with something, but we're not done picking directors yet, right?
No,
we've done like the ones that I had on my list that we had to cover when we started this whole podcast. The Coens is the last one for me. So
Coens is one of mine, but I have one left. There's one more director that when we started this project, I was like, we're getting to this guy, and I think there is maybe he's not spoken about as much as he ought to be these days. Part of that is various problematic parts of his personality and history, which will come up.
Sure, but
but
you want to talk about great films of the 20th century, you're going to run into some of that.
Absolutely, and we will when we talk about our next director, Mr. Terry Gilliam. The next series we will be doing, for the second half of 2025 or what have you, we'll be talking about the collected film works of director Terry Gilliam, and one of my all-time favorites, man. Some of the great films for me on this list. Some the top of this list is going to be very similar to the top of the Coens for me. I'm very curious where you will land on many of these.
I don't know. There's a couple of his that I love, and I don't think I've seen like half of them. So this is going to be the one that I'm coming in closest to, like the blankest of slates that we've had so far.
Well, you will find there are definitely consistent through lines thematically through a lot of this. He's got many, many similar concerns, and they are. Well, they're very much his own. And you're going to see some of the dirtiest fantasy worlds you've ever seen, for sure.
I like that. All right. Well, it's been fun.
Yes, it has. I don't know, man. It's going to be tough to top this as a series, at least when it comes to watching the films, man. This has been a special time, and I've had a blast. Really enjoyed it.
And then we wake up.
I was just speculating about a hypothesis. I know I don't know nothing.
Uncertainty. That is appropriate for matters of this world.
There, we're in a tight spot.